Order, and Mike McNamara is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if y'all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for all coming tonight. This will take us to our good news portion. Griffin Hills, there he is.
I really appreciate everybody showing up tonight just to hear me speak. It's good. No, I'm excited. Mr. Simpson asked me if I could say a couple things about some of the good news that we got at the high school. Anytime we get an opportunity to brag about our teachers or our students, I love doing that. And then I brought one with us, and we'll talk about that in a second. So, Tecumseh High School, April 29th, we found out the U.S. News National High School Rankings came out. The criteria that they use for these rankings are these 6 things. How many seniors took at least one AP exam, how many passed at least one AP exam, which is a 3 or higher, how our kids did on their math proficiency, how they did on the reading proficiency, our underserved student performance, how they did, and our graduation rate. And this was the 16-17 school data for 12th graders at that time. So it takes them a while to compile that. I think there were around 23,000 schools that they did rank. And here's what we ranked. 69 out of 650 in the state of Michigan. And then 1,891 nationally. So basically we're, I want to say top 10%, but statistically that's not correct. We're top 11% in the state of Michigan and in the country. And then the other thing, I put an email out to all our district families and our district staff. And this just kind of shows you, this isn't to be negative or anything, it just shows you how we compare to the surrounding schools. Milan was next closest to us in this area. They were ranked 108th, Clinton, and you can kind of go down the line and see some different people. So those are 10 schools kind of in this area. The other thing I think I should mention is this isn't just a reflection of the high school teachers. This is a reflection of all the teachers, pre-kindergarten all the way up, that get our kids ready. So we're proud of that, and this young man next to me, his name is Haven Osborne. And he was going to share his story, and he saw you guys, and now he's chickened out. But he said I could do it. You can kind of coach me along, okay? Okay, here's Haven's story. Haven is a junior this year. This is his 3rd year in the high school. As a freshman, struggled a little bit. Fair to say? Yep. Was really trying to find his pathway, trying to find what was working for him. Then he started taking some online classes. Fast forward 3 years right now. Haven just finished all of his high school curriculum last Friday. Haven will be graduating. So he'll be walking in our commencement on June 2nd. He'll be walking in graduation. And there's more good news. He has 18 credits of college completed. And, can I tell him they're really cool, bro? Yeah. On Thursday, he has a music producer from LA flying in to work with them on Thursday. We are extremely proud of this young man, and just another example of the good things that are coming out of high school and our district. So thanks for your time tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that'll bring us to our first public comment. It's on agenda items only, and please limit your speaking to 3 minutes and state your name.
My name is Roberta Sailing. I'm a former Tecumseh School Board member. I served for 9 years on the board, all through the 90s. We hired a new superintendent with all these radical ideas. And we weren't sure how this was going to work, but we worked with the staff because we thought the staff knew more about education than we did. They could lead us through the process. It took a couple of years, but everything finally worked out. And I'm troubled that you're giving so little time to allow the new curriculum to succeed. I'm sure that in the second year there have been adjustments and improvements, and in years to come there will be more. And it troubles me that you're deep sixing this so early in the game. I know that you have budget concerns. I looked at your last audit. You have a $5.7 million fund balance. There's no reason you couldn't take the $1.5 million out of that fund balance. I know that it's recommended that you have a 15 to 20% fund balance. Through the 90s, we often operated with a 9 or 10% fund balance. You can use that and not cause more upheaval in the district. It seems to me that given your track record with hiring superintendents, you might spend your time better, maybe working with the Michigan Association of School Boards, to use some of their resources to help you figure out how to find the best superintendent for this district. I just think that you're moving hastily. As far as I can tell, you've only had one meeting to discuss this building realignment. Of course, if you've been meeting separately, then that's against the Open Meetings Act. But I think you just need to slow down. I think you're moving way too fast. I know Brad Hamilton talked about that. He urged you to slow down and take time. I think you need to work with the staff. Let them guide you through this, and just slow everything down so there's not so much upheaval in the district. I fear that if you continue on the way you're moving, that kind of stuff is going to be in the past and not in our future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joyce Lammers. I teach at Compass Learning Center. I'm also a parent in the district. I spoke here in January and welcomed you as new school board members. I invited each of you to stop into my classroom to see what we're doing, how kids are challenged and sincerely love learning in our schools. I would love for anyone here to stop into my classroom at any time. The other thing I brought up when I spoke last is how excited I am to see how many people are here to discuss education. It's great to see you all here. The board promised repeatedly to get opinion from teachers. Committees were formed and supposed to meet in public settings so that we could all be involved. As I understand it, the committees did not meet. Last week I planned to attend study sessions where I hope to be involved in planning for what's best for our kids. Yet it looks like tonight that might be decided without any teacher input. I've taught here for 19 years. I care about our kids. It was clear for a while that we needed to move buildings. At Sutton there were classrooms that were more cramped each year. I taught fourth grade classes that had 28 and 29 students in them, yet there were 16 and 18 students in a fourth grade classroom at Herrick Park. A move or a change needed to happen so that we could offer programs equally across the district. I sat in on many meetings and tours and planned how we could possibly try to restructure for our kids. It didn't turn out perfect, but it was the input of many that tried to create a possible route. As far as the way we teach, if you think we all changed our ways entirely by moving buildings, I'm sorry, you're simply wrong. Each day I and my colleagues blend the newest research and ideas with our past experiences. We honor what works best and ultimately is successful in engaging students and getting kids passionate about learning. I was integrating STEAM units for years at Sutton Elementary, and actually before we even called it STEAM. I think it was thinking that I was going for. I say that what we're doing, and when you say what we're doing is hurting kids, or when someone in the community says what we're doing might be hurting kids, or not best practice, it's an insult to me personally, my training, and it's an insult to my entire profession. What I do in the classroom has been, and I promise you will always be, centered on learning. Please know that we as teachers and parents are all responsible for the good news that Griff shared here tonight. We celebrate how Tecumseh High School ranks compared to other high schools. This is not a reflection of any one element or any trend in teaching or any method. It's fantastic teachers from kindergarten to AP Calculus that focus solely on what they know to be the best practices. Some of them old, some of them new. Teachers who try things and keep old methods that they know absolutely work. It is my every expectation that Tecumseh schools will continue to rank well against other schools because of the fantastic parents and fantastic teachers trying to do what's best for each kids today, or for all of our kids today. It's just simply that. Keeping current and trying new ideas are a huge part of what we do in every industry. Please consider respecting our expertise. Involve us in decisions. Be a part of the success here in our district. This community, our kids, their parents, our teachers, they are some of the best. That's why I live here. That's why I choose to live here. That's why I choose to come to work every day. I super love the idea of one Tecumseh. One where we all work together and we all respect each other. Thank you.
We all attend 8th grade. We're at the Tecumseh West STEAM Center, and we just had some stuff we wanted to say.
Hi, my name is Olivia Torres, and I'm a current student at Tecumseh STEAM West Center. I have been going to West for about 2 years, and I thought I should share some things with you. The STEAM program continues to provide me with amazing opportunities and so many different ways to learn. One of my favorite things about this program is the freedom. In traditional schooling, you just sit in a classroom with the teacher talking to you for an hour. But with STEAM, it's a whole new world. It's hands-on and collaborate, and you get to collaborate with peers and teachers in a way other schools only dream of. In the beginning of my 7th grade year, I thought I was never going to get used to this, but I soon realized that this is for me, this is the way I want to learn, and this is the future. An example of this is math. In the traditional learning style, everybody in the class is moving from lesson to lesson all together. But some people would fall behind and some people would excel. But despite that, we would continue to move to another lesson without fully understanding the last one. But with the STEAM curriculum, students are able to move at their own pace and are able to understand what they are being taught. Thank you.
For the last 2 years, we've been working with project-based learning. Some of the projects that we've been working on this year include, we did a Shark Tank where we took a societal issue and we got to make an invention that we thought could help solve it. We did city planning where we designed a city where we could pick like any government structure we would like. And then we also have done, right now we're working on Heroes where we picked an issue with anything, like you could pick a global issue, and we designed heroes to defeat the villain we created. And after we finish each project, we have an expo, where we get to show off our projects to the community and everything we've been learning to our family members and friends. These projects have not only taught us academics, but we've also learned social skills and to get better at public speaking. And with traditional school, you don't get to do that usually. You don't usually have things where you can show what you've been learning and working on. But expos are definitely one of my favorite parts of being in a STEAM school.
The STEAM centers have allowed us so many opportunities to get involved in our community, including community service projects where we were able to choose to go which place we want to, and like the Humane Society, Habitat for Humanity, or Catherine Cobb. We could also do things to help clean up our city. We had opportunities to do job shadowing recently, and learners had the opportunity to go places such as Bixby Medical Center, Adrian Animal Clinic, Adrian Fire and Police Departments, Siena Heights Nursing Education Department, and many more. These opportunities offer skills that will last a lifetime and help kids as they grow.
East and West STEAM is a great opportunity to expand Tecumseh schools and give other learners a STEAM experience. As of right now, the class of 2023 has been the only class who's got to do 7th grade and 8th grade in the STEAM Center. We believe that having a change right now, I guess, and switching back to traditional school isn't the best, because I think to have something great, it takes time, and that switching to a new school system after just two school years of doing it isn't enough time, because the school system is a big change, and it's going to take more than just 2 school years to get used to it and for it to be like well-oiled and a good machine to work.
Our experience with West has been unlike any other schooling experience. Our facilitators truly care about us and our futures. Because we have spent the last 2 years with our whole class, we have developed lasting friendships. Because of this, the learning experience has been more enjoyable and positive. We look forward to going to school, and learning has become so much more fun.
Some of the things that I've enjoyed about the 2 years at West that I didn't get to experience in the old middle school setup are having more options for the classes I want to take and being able to switch my schedule because I didn't like my class choice or there were problems with my schedule. I like having closer relationships with my students and friends, peers, and even teachers because I have more time to freely interact with them. I also like how the staff at West treats us with respect and acknowledges that we are young adults who can make good decisions. I really hope that the younger kids that attend Tecumseh get to experience the benefits of STEAM centers. My 7th and 8th grade years have challenged me like no other did previously, and I've learned some great self-management skills before I head off to high school. I got to be the unique individual I am at West, and I feel like I am valued and fit right in there. Thank you.
And I just wanted to point out that I remember receiving emails inviting the public to be involved in the configuration that we now have. And I'm curious how many of you were actually a part of that. So 1 of you out of 7. So that's great. I also remember personally making a conscious decision not to participate, knowing that I would then choose not to have any input. The most important fact is that the community was welcomed to have voice in the decisions. I also understand in all the talk that's been going on for the last few months that it was the public decision that ended up making what we have now. It wasn't this board or what, it was the public. It was their choice. They chose the configuration. Maybe it was a majority vote, but being that I wasn't there, I don't know, but this is what we ended up with. So I would have to believe that most people involved chose exactly what we have right now, otherwise we wouldn't have it. Tonight you have discussion and action, which I find interesting. Maybe it is just the next step, but I sure hope that it slows down. I do find it interesting that someone that was worth $700 a day, urging you to slow down, ended up resigning for reasons that he respectfully is not making too obvious. But I don't know, that's just really concerning, and I think that there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. There's a lot of things I think that are not being told to the public, things that are going on with your meetings that probably should be shared so we could have a lot better understanding as to why why Brad Hamilton has a very good reputation would leave quickly without a 2-week notice. So anyway, I just think there's a lot of impressions being made with your hasty decisions. I also was reminded that part of your campaign was wanting to be heard, and yet at the last several meetings there's been a lot of people wanting to be heard, and I don't see you giving much ear to what people are saying. In January, some teachers spoke. Mrs. Lammers was one of them. All of them had great things to say. One of them, 4th grade teacher, said, survey us. Was that done? No. Okay. So I wondered about that. So the answer back here was no, and I'm assuming that was probably a teacher. So you're not hearing the teachers. Did you ask? Did you get the majority? I would love to see a survey asking all of the teachers and then seeing the majority on that. I'd like to hear their opinion because they are the ones that have gone through the stress of this change, immense stress. It is hard work, and after 2 years you're rushing to change it back to what was, or whatever. Money, you know, I get it, there's money, but I'd like to see official documentation about the number of students. But yet, okay, 1.5 million loss, I really appreciate what the woman, former board member spoke to, with experience, knowing, and at the same time, I know I'm a little jumbled trying to get as much out in a short time, but at that time of mentioning the loss of students, I didn't hear any comments about your decisions, poor choices in superintendents that we're now still paying at the same time that we're paying for an investigation, our tax dollars, that continues to go on for why this long, I'm not sure. That's a lot of money, I'm pretty sure. And then having to pay another superintendent $700 a day, and then not liking him so much that it must have forced him to want to leave, being unworkable, as his quote was, "I'll work with you as much as you allow me to, but if you don't," I'm not exactly quoting, but similar. So obviously you didn't want to have his input. And I did want to just kind of recap one statement I heard at the last meeting I was at, when he said something along the line of, "If you're interested in my opinion." So there must have been some kind of discussion in meetings that weren't public that made him feel as though his opinion wasn't valued. I have a lot more that I'd love to say, but anyway, these are my thoughts, and I really concur with Brad Hamilton, the woman that spoke. I think a large number of people, slow down. Slow down. I think you're making a huge mistake in going so fast. And also, Compass traffic has improved tremendously. And I remember going to Sutton and having several close calls with accidents. And this is very controlled. They've done a good job. They hired more staff. So I can't really see that as an argument. As far as another thing you said, as far as lost school time with the students having to be bused for band and that. As a homeschool mom, and I know it's not the same as public school, I just know there's a lot of learning that can be done in short time frames, and actually it tends to be better learning when it's in small chunks. So I really don't think that's a strong point either. Sounds good though. Thank you.
Mary Beth Madziar. I'm a teacher of 26 years. I can assure you that the learning that's done in Tecumseh, you talked about how it was done before we moved to STEAM, is happening in other districts. And I would like to remind everybody, as you're well aware, this new school board was voted in by an overwhelming majority. Let's acknowledge it and let our democratic process work. For those of you who are hampering the process, please, I beg you to stop hampering. The truth is that this board is trying to fix the profound mess that our schools were into. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but we've all been there. I give loads of credit to folks who are man enough to rise it and fix it. I think of the idiom, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. For the sake of our children and our community, I'm appealing to your moral decency. Please stop, please, and let's do the right thing and move on for the good of our kids and community. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to,
Sorry, I was thinking maybe I wasn't gonna do it, but I have to. So I'm Sarah Abbott, if you don't know. I'm a third grade educator at Compass. And I sat back there and I've been wanting to talk, and it's not easy for me. If you were a bunch of kids, it'd be so much easier, but you're not. And then I saw these really brave 8th graders come up here and they decided to talk. So I knew it was time that I need to say what I need to say. I have a question for everybody that's in this room right now. What is your dream for Tecumseh Public Schools? Think about it. For your own children, if you have them in the schools. Do you want the same education that you have for yourself for your kids? Or do you want better? I can answer for you and I can tell you I want better. I want better for my kids. I want the dream to be here in Tecumseh. I grew up here, and I was super excited to move back. We moved away, and we went, okay, we have little kids now. Where do we want them to go to school? Howell is a great area, huge school. And we went, no, we want that community. Right now, our community is struggling, and it's this side versus that side. It's supposed to be relationships. We want relationships with you as teachers. We haven't seen you. We haven't seen you come in and talk to us. You might talk to some of us. You haven't asked us, how is it going for us? We haven't talked about what the move was like for us. At this point in the year when we moved, we already had 50 boxes packed and we were asking for 50 more. We're right now at May 13th and we have nothing. We don't know what that looks for us. And that's scary. I work with some amazing people here, and they come to work each day for those kids, but they have anxiety, and they're scared, and they're sad, and they're depressed. It's not what this is supposed to be about. We come for those kids, and they love us. That's why we're there. Teacher appreciation last week, man, that made our hearts grow, and then we came back going, okay, what's this week bring? We showed up, so many of us, for the discussion meetings. We were ready. We were like, we're actually going to get to talk. That was canceled. Then the next one, and it just keeps feeling like it's canceled, and the discussion happens, and then we see action item, and we all went defeated before today even happened. So we're asking you to seriously think about what you want. We need to set a plan, but it doesn't have to happen for next school year. You don't have to move. We're talking about 2 grades. 7th and 8th grade is your big concern. I know that's the concern behind me. 2 grades, and we're going to upheave everybody for 2. What are some other options that we have that we could do instead of moving everybody for 2 grade levels? We have to think about more. I don't even know, the weeds are deep. We're in the weeds. Right now we need to focus on the strength. We don't have a leader. That's hard for us. I know it's probably hard for you when you have an empty seat up here without a superintendent. But now we have administrators that we're losing. We have no superintendent. We're feeling lost. We want a goal set for us, but we want to be a part of that. We want a leader that has those things in mind for us. So we're not asking you to stop and that you're not doing it for the right reason, because we believe that you are here for the right reason. But we're asking not to make it on a you decision, but to make it a group, all of us. If anybody up there is feeling any doubt, please just don't action items, say no. You can say no, no one will be upset with you. Please come and talk to us and let's do this together. You don't want teachers with your kids each day that are stressed. You want them to be happy, and we're happy with the kids, but this is hard to work in a system like this. Thank you.
Move on to revisions and approval of the agenda. I want to make a couple changes to the agenda. One, I want to add MASB training discussion items. And the other would be to move the interim superintendent position to the top of the discussion items. And add an action item for superintendent as well.
I'd like to consider, after hearing this and after talking to a couple of teachers, to remove reconfiguration from the action item on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that was the plan last week, but we couldn't get it posted.
Well, and we were given information, I mean, actually, just so everybody knows, Brad Hamilton sent us an email that said, I believe that you have enough information to make a decision. And this was after he spoke with the administrators, and I assumed the teachers. We were told that we had enough information that we didn't need to prolong this, by Brad. So, if everybody has not gotten to put their input in, we're more than happy to sit down and talk with you some more.
Yeah.
But the information that we were given by Brad Hamilton before he left was that we had enough information to make a decision.
Alright, so. Alright, so can I get a motion to add the MSA training to a discussion item, move interim superintendent to the top of the list of discussion items, and remove the action plan for the reconfiguration?
Thank you.
Roll call?
Abbott?
Yay.
Benzing?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
McNamara?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Simpson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Alright, moving on to scheduled reports. John Zajac?
All right, that's pretty tough to follow. So I have my coaches up here at this meeting every year. We kind of talk about our summer overnight trips. We have coaches that want to take their kids on overnight trips. Girls basketball is doing it, our girls cross country coach, boys soccer, and we've got a cheers going over. So I believe you guys all have the packet, information in your packets. I don't want to take more time and read this, so if you guys have any questions for me or for our coaches, we're here to answer anything. I don't think, unless you want them to go over everything that's in there, we can, but I don't want to take more of your time.
You said we do this every year?
We do, every year, yeah. And so it's different teams go, different coaches go. Christy went last year, Jerry went, I think this is Wendy's first time. You went last year too, yeah, so all three went last time. Our competitive cheer is a new one that's going this year. And it differs, some coaches go, some coaches don't. But all the information's in there. We have more information if you want it. You can email me or email the coaches. Any questions for us?
Do kids enjoy it?
My seniors are begging to come back this year.
There you go.
They may be chaperones, so they really like it.
I've got 35 that go, and practically, I think over the 5 years, we've only had 2 kids not being able to attend, including the incoming freshman.
The girls' cross-country team really enjoys it. They get to sleep in tents and make all their own food in between running, so they have lots of bonding, and it's a good time. Lots of laughter happens at cross-country camp.
Yeah.
Mr. Zajac makes all our food, so we come back and we have dinner ready, so that's awesome.
Did he make you put in there for your wonderful husband?
No, he actually changed that part.
Come on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And the finance update, Nikki?
Hello. First I wanted to ask, I put the normal monthly packet of reports in your board packet. I don't know if anybody had any questions about those at all. Okay. Those were figures for the month of April, so as of the end of April, we're 70% spent, which is pretty much exactly where we were last year, almost the 100th of a percentage point. I've gone through the first run of final revision. Let me back up a little bit. I had previously mentioned a budget schedule in a board meeting or two ago about bringing the final revision budget to this meeting and approving it during the next meeting, and so on with the proposed for next year. But a couple things. So for the proposed budget for next year, as some of you might know, there's a lot of uncertainty going on with the state budget. There's going to be some time before they pass something, I'm thinking, and it won't pass before we get to the proposed budget probably. So we are going to continue with the most conservative estimates that we have, just to be on the safe side, because accountants like to be on the safe side. But for the final revision, after speaking with some other business managers across the state, Brad and my predecessor, they've all recommended that we wait and that we do the final revision in June, so we have the most accurate figures possible. And I think that was pretty wise, considering a lot of unknowns right now. We did have a purchasing cutoff, so just to make sure all of you know, every year around the end of April, we
ask that all of the buildings and the administrators forecast what they're going to need until the end of June. They put in all of their purchase orders ahead of time so that we're working with what everyone thinks is their best estimate. And after a first run through final revision budget, we are not going to be looking at a 1.5 million deficit, but a 1.3 million deficit, so a little rosier than what we had anticipated. Yeah. And then a couple other things going on the side. We do have some RFPs, some requests for proposals. The process is starting for food service. Our food service contract ends at the end of June, so the state runs that bid. They control every piece of it, and but that is ongoing. And then the other RFP that we're putting together is the RFP for that safety and security grant that we received. We do have a technology engineer looking at that, and he's going to be helping us put the RFP together so that we ensure that our buildings are as secure as possible and that everything is designed as intelligently as possible. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did have a quick question on page 3 of the budget, the food services area.
Yeah.
It seems like our food sales to pupils and the a la carte sales are down. Is this current through April, or are we behind at all?
No, we're a month behind on food service.
Okay.
So food services billed a whole month behind. So
Okay.
those are March numbers for food service.
Okay. So we should, at this point, it looks like we're $291,000 out of budget, but you think we'll be closer to on budget by the end of the year with
Yeah.
food sales?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Any other questions?
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
All right, our first discussion item is the interim superintendent position. And I've invited Mr. Greg Lewis to step forward.
Okay, yes, sir.
So, I know you, Milt knows you, Suzanne knows you, Mike knows you, do you know Kevin?
Not at all.
Okay, so maybe I'll introduce yourself a little bit, so to board members here, so.
Okay, my name's Greg Lewis. I'm 1978 graduate of Tecumseh High School. We had our 40th class reunion last year, and that was distressing. A lot of those guys look a lot older. So I retired from here after I had 27 years here in various. I started in the fall of '89. I was a community ed and adult education teacher. 1990, I got hired to be a security person at the high school. Did that job for a couple of years and then moved on up to a dean of students and then actually got into administration before I was a teacher here. I did some teaching in the school as well, but it was a 2/5 position at the high school. So then I went back and taught 8th grade science for 10 years, went back into administration, retired, lived happily ever after, until now. I retired in the end of October of 2015. I'm back here now because I had an invitation from Mr. Simpson, actually talked about a vacated principal position. That was, I think, 2 weeks ago that we first time I'd ever met you. And then that blew up when Mr. Hamilton parted ways with us, and he asked me if I wanted to do this, and believe me, a week ago today, I had no idea this was a possibility. So that pretty much sums up where I'm at right now. I will say that listening to what Griff said, so many of the teachers here said, I think of what Brad Hamilton said when he was here. This is my second board meeting I've been to since I retired, when he said we have more things in common than we have that oppose each other. I think that's spot on. I look at the graphics that Griff put up. I listen to the young ladies that spoke here. I listen to the teaching staff that spoke here. I mean, yeah, we've got our problems, but we've got a lot of resources and assets here to solve those problems. We just have to turn ourselves loose, unleash what's there. I was a science teacher, so I think of our school district kind of like the energy pyramid. At the bottom, we've got our students and their parents. That's the base of what goes on in the school. The next step up would be administration. And I said that would be not just the building, if I turn around you can't hear me. not just the building principals, but also central office that's worked into that. That's the next group that would be there, and then the board, the school board sits on the top of that as an advisory panel. All those pieces are in place. What we need to do, in my opinion, is we just need to work with the students who've spoken. We've seen what they can do. We've seen the statistics that they can do. We've heard what our teachers said. They're the boots on the ground right now. They're the ones that have the best feel for what's going on, and we work with them, we include them, we build this from the ground up. That's my vision after I talked with yourself and Mr. McNamara and Mr. Benzing. Implementing that, making that happen smoothly, that'll be a bit more of a challenge, but we all want the same thing here. I mean, I listened to the one young lady, Mrs. Abbott. I mean, were you here when I was here? Sorry, you've aged more gracefully than I have. But I mean, she's right. I mean, we all want, our teachers want their classroom to be a classroom that their kids would be proud to be in, their own children. And now I have 3 grandkids in this district. That's what made me start to get involved, because I really, when you step away, when you retire, you forfeited your ability to have a great deal of influence, unless you want to run for school board. I didn't. I look at I read about some of the turmoil and distress. I run into people in the grocery store, ask me my opinion over the last couple of years. I really don't have one, because I read the Telegram, look at the headlines in the Herald. That's not an informed decision, so I've kept my mouth shut. That's always been hard for me. But I really haven't commented too much. I lamented this whole opportunity that you've given me for 3 or 4 days. My head was like 2 hamsters running around in a cage, and that was both brain cells, the one that moves my feet and the one that controls the rest of my body. But I think this is a unique opportunity. I think this district has always had the ability to work itself out of trouble. I mean, I know Mr. Abbott was here, and you guys were here when we had Mrs. Saling, when we had to make cuts, and we had difficult decisions to make. We've landed on our feet. As far as I'm concerned, statistically, we are in top 10% in the state, and we can continue that, and we can do just as well or better. I know my 3 daughters all graduated from here, and we can argue about traditional system, comprehension-based learning, project-based learning, whatever moniker you want to put on it, it's still learning. My 3 kids are graduated from here. They all have doctoral degrees, and they have an MD, a JD, and a DPT. So what the teachers did here, they had the opportunity to learn from some of the best teachers in the state, in my opinion. And I was only the teacher for one of them, so I can't take credit for that. I really believe that it was the teachers here, kindergarten right on up, that made that happen. My one grandson that's been in school here now for 2 years, he has a fantastic teacher. That's the difference. And as far as the void that's at the top with a superintendent, yeah, I'm probably just a figurehead if that's what you guys want to go ahead and do. But I will roll my sleeves up. I will get to work. I've got 3.5 years of letting my batteries charge up. So I'm ready to go ahead and go out and do the bidding and do the best I can with that. Any questions from anybody here at the board?
I talked your leg off the other day long enough, probably.
It's all right. I got information for you too.
Griff does, I'm sorry. He's got his permit, so we're good to go there, so. You did teach in Morenci for? I
did earlier this year. I did sub for the first quarter of the school year, 5th and 6th grade at Morenci, and we did do project. We actually did, they call it stream there, but it's the same thing. We did some integrated lessons every day for the 6th grade.
What major leadership position have you ever had outside of education?
I was a team leader at Lenawee Stamping for about a cup of coffee's worth of time. Because I worked there when it first opened, and there were some people who shuffled around, and they put me there because I'd been an officer in the Army, so I'd had some leadership there. When I was on active duty, I'd been a commander, and then when I was stayed in the reserves, I retired as a ranking major.
So we're in kind of a unique situation right now, as you know. And we have the investigation. I actually spoke with the investigator today.
Okay.
We anticipate that wrapping up. He said I should have my report between the 24th and the 31st. And of course, from that point, then we're going to need to sit down and make some decisions based on whatever that report indicates. So this could be a very temporary position. It could not be, we don't know. What is your availability if we needed you longer than a few weeks?
I'm available. I'm here. I'd like to see this. I just want to see things get better. Myrna, sorry, spoke at the board meeting I was at the last time, said she wanted to be part of the solution, and that echoed in my ears. I still didn't volunteer, but I thought if I saw something I could help with, I would. Still didn't volunteer, but I got asked, and so then I volunteered. I mean, this is my home. This is where I'm from. This is what I want to make this better. So I'm committed to that. My wife retires 2 months from Thursday, because she's not counting. She does. So for me to have a job out of the house, she's used to supervising 17 people. I don't think I can take the beating of 17 people.
So the other thing that I would ask is, so we had set up committees, we put a lot of effort into getting those put together. They were headed up by our superintendent and co-superintendent, who are no longer, one is no longer a co-superintendent and one is in limbo at this moment, I guess. We're non-disciplinary paid leave. So we've had nobody to head up those committees, which has been disheartening for everyone, including us. So would that be something, clearly I'm not gonna ask you to head up every committee, but
no, but it's got,
no,
it has to be put together. I don't know how many committees you have put together.
We had several, but truly, I mean, it's, at this moment, it's gotta be the curriculum and probably the facilities, I would think, that need to be, I mean, that, it's a part of everything that we're doing right now.
And so the curriculum's gonna drive the configuration of the buildings as well?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing for a superintendent to be involved with, so.
Well, that was kind of our thought, so we've been a little bit, and I apologize to the community, of course. That was, the intent was to have you all involved, and our teachers. And we've been without the person to do that.
Right, and I understand the need to slow down. You can only slow down to a certain point, because there are a lot of deadlines due to this district, June 30th, that probably have been in neutral for a while. And we need to find that stuff out and move forward at risk of possibly losing further funding that we don't have to lose. And I know that. I've never filed those type of reports. I know they exist, so that's gonna be a challenge. There's a lot of challenges here between now and the 30th of June.
The question, I guess, then is, are you up to the challenge?
Boy, I hope. I mean, it's hard to say when you've never done it, you know. I mean, in my younger exuberance, I would say, oh yeah, no problem. But I mean, a little older, a little wiser. We also don't have a very complete staff right now at the board level, in the administrative office, the board office. Getting some people in place there that could assist with that, it's going to be key to making a lot of that stuff happen. I just listened to Miss or Mrs. Reinhardt. I mean, she holds a lot of that, or some of that info. So there's a short amount of time to get a lot of stuff gathered, to get that to you, satisfy the people in Lansing. I think I'm up to it as well as anybody else that you're gonna find around here. I mean, I know I have more vested interest in it.
That counts for a lot. That's all I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, yep, you're welcome.
Okay, a couple of things here. We got donations, one from Old National Bank Corp for $50 and one from First Federal for $100. And those will be approved in the consent agenda. So just wanted to thank Old National Bank Corp and First Federal for those donations. Thank you very much. And now on to the 2018-19 calendar year, end of year schedule. I know the governor has sign some legislation to forgive 4 additional snow days that occurred. But I also know that we might be short some hours in the high school with some of the vocational students that weren't, no? Is that not, okay?
Okay.
Well, we need to figure it out, so, because I'm getting conflict information, so. Okay, all right. So we're gonna vote on that at the next meeting until we can get we don't even know what's in the legislation, so, she just passed it Thursday night, so. We'll find out on that, and then we'll get the year-end schedule for everybody, but right now it looks like we'll probably be the same schedule of what we had, so, but we gotta make sure we're not cheating ourselves. So. Any questions on that? Okay, and then in your packet, we've got the TPS representative to serve on the 2019 LISD electoral body. And this is just information right now. The next meeting, we'll have to pick someone to be our representative and an alternate for that. So if anybody is interested, Mr. McNamara. So, and then we need an alternate as well. So, and then we have 2 candidates. And it's Richard German and Kim Amstutz-Wild. And in your packet, you have their bios and information. So, at the next meeting, we have to vote on whoever representative is, our alternate, and who we're going to support. So, okay. I skipped over one thing. So, the 2019-20 Cooperative Shared Services Agreement with the LISD. This is a 1-year extension to the services. And Nikki, how many FTEs is that?
3.65.
Okay. So essentially they are doing some office work, and then they do our payroll, and they do our accounting as well. So my thing is, we're not in a position right now to really.
You're talking finance, all finance stuff?
Yeah, and some office work, so.
What kind of office work?
Filing and,
Anything and everything fine.
Yeah, okay, it's all finance, okay.
so, if you wanna look that over, and we can back on it next week. And then we have the 2019-20 building reconfiguration speak, per se, discussion. I think Kevin's going to start first.
I will.
Is that on your computer?
Yeah. Kind of switch over to presentation mode. It is an interesting picture though.
Yes.
And a very interesting story I'll tell you. There we go. So, with building reconfiguration, what's happened is a couple board members have gone forward and interacted with the finance department, fact-finding, and moved at it in one direction, which is strictly functionally inside the school, and looking at the rooms in the school, talking to teachers, administrators, and seeing where we sit. I went another way. A lot of the data we have is data that it was compiled data. It was gotten in bits and pieces throughout the last year or so. So we have piecemeal data. I wanted new data, and for 2018-19, the state of Michigan now has all of our official headcount information, building counts, grade level stuff. That's all available on the My School Data website, so everyone can go check that out. I went to get all of that and compile it into one fresh data collection, and then I wanted to verify it or benchmark it against the old data I had. Along with that, I went to the student accounting and some of the employees in the school, and got internal data, which is basically count day data that breaks down all of the student counts and building usage. And I'm using it to develop my own thoughts and impression, and I'm sharing it with the board now because that's the way these meetings work. So I plotted the long and short-term student population trends so we can see if we're stable, how the county is, and use that to estimate what our population might be next year and for the near future. I wanted to evaluate our historical usage of the building. There's a difference between operational capacity and maximum student capacity. We can pack 30 kids in a classroom at every grade level. That doesn't mean we can teach them. For that, I spent a lot of time sitting down with Mr. Hamilton, some building administrators, some teachers. This is mostly teachers that I already had some connection to because they've been my kids' teachers, or I had a connection with them outside of school. I find it is the best way to get honest information if you already have some type of relationship with it. All of that went into looking at future building use and projecting student population for the next year. This is our 15-year head count, our official from the state. It is not weighted for FTE, which means it's our raw head count before they adjust it for full-time hours. You can see right there, we reorganized, and until then, we go all the way back to '01. Fall of '01, I believe it was, when we put the new high school into play. Since then, we had 4 elementaries, 1 5 to 8, 1 9 to 12. And that's how we ran with all these numbers. We had coming up on 3,500 students back then. Right now, 2,784. So we're 700 students approximately light from what we were at our maximum capacity. That tells us that we definitely have room for at least 700 students in our district right now, which is a lot of expensive unused space. We looked a little bit closer at the 3-year head count trend. This is broken down by our fall and our spring head counts. So we have 3 school years. You'll see it starts up at 3010 there. And comes all the way down to our current, which is 2806. We're 3 years down 204 students mathematically. You can see that after the 17-18 school year, over that summer, we took a big hit, like 136. Right now, we're looking kind of stable. We had 2,800 last fall. We came up 2,806 on our count day head counts this spring. This is the LISD head count, or the Lenawee Intermediate School District. This is the county head count. You can see pretty much the same trend. We had a drop here. The drop is not as significant, though. They dropped in 3 years 130 countywide. We dropped 136 in one summer. So the students are still out there, I guess is the way I would read that, or possibly still out there. It's not that the county had a mass exodus, it's that Tecumseh did. That means we have a pool of students that we can get back. We shouldn't plan on a massive influx of students, but we should know that it's a possibility in the short term when we're planning for school usage. Hamilton and Herrick Park, this is the head count for these specific schools. You can see I also benchmarked it against the total student body head count up top. At the bottom here, we're 273, 246, right now 212 and 215. Not a huge difference in student population. Those schools are kind of our smallest though. So percentage-wise, it probably works out. It is notable that the school has changed usage. Obviously, at the end of the 2016-17, it's no longer a K through 4 elementary. It's now a STEAM center, and that also accounts, because it's one grade level, accounts for the change in head count there. Acres and Sutton, or north and south. Acres and Sutton way back in the beginning of this when they were at 418 and 417, I believe, yeah. 418 dropped down to 177. That went from K4 to K1, but that also has young fives and preschool in it. That accounts for some of the loss of head count. We've got some rooms being used for preschool, so there's still bodies in there. It's not part of our official head count. Preschool is not. And we're a little bit less severe over at Acres. We're at 417, now down to 271. And that comes up 146 light. So we've got room in all the schools, to tell you the truth. The high school, middle school head count, same thing there. We did see, this is the middle school or Compass now. This changed use completely, so it's really hard to draw a parallel. We know that we have fewer students in it by 104, but lower grade levels should have fewer students per class. I did not poll every grade level teacher to see what they felt was ideal. I polled some of them, so I could get a feel for age ranges and what the teachers felt was manageable, and what point they said it was great, and what point they said the students were just overwhelming. So I think that a lot of that 104 is due to smaller class sizes, at least I hope it is, but I didn't go through the effort to find out for sure. Up here, that's our high school. We were at 1,100 and some change way back in 05, 06. We got a lot of room in the high school. That's just the high school. It changes. We have one really small class right now, and that's accounting for some of it, but overall it's our population. The lower county population and lower birth rates we're experiencing right now are not going to help us. If there are any gains to be made passively or organically, they're not going to be significant. Forecasting, of course, I talked to Mr. Hamilton about this at length. I believe I talked to Mr. Lewandowski and a couple others. And this is a black art or a roll of the dice. Even huge studies from universities are hit and miss, they said. And I can see that's a possibility. So this is as far as I went into it. It wasn't worth any more time. What is notable is over on the far right there, the Michigan birth rate per 1,000. It's kind of flat and it's kind of stable, which means what we're getting right now for incoming kindergarten, what's circled there is kindergarten this year and the next couple of years. We shouldn't expect any grand increases just due to birth rate. This is our kindergarten class this year. This data was as of 5/1. It comes straight out of our student accounting and registrations. We had 126 new registrations for young fives in kindergarten. We had 36 current young fives continuing on to kindergarten, which brought us up to 162. At that time, we had 8 scheduled for an assessment who were hopefully going to be registered, and 27 which were of age in district and on a contact list. They had not scheduled an assessment and had not enrolled thus far. That's a possible 197. That's of course possible. Those are eggs that haven't hatched yet. We don't know what's going to happen with those. But we do know that right now we are on par with an average school year. I talked to, again, the people that do this every day because they know a lot more than I do. And they said that this is about their average number, the way it goes, and we'll hit about August, I think, probably when we start advertising schools and open houses and such. We'll get an increase then, it'll be notable, and then a few people show up on their first day and drop their kids off and not know they had to register them. So hopefully, we're on schedule for hitting our average, which is going to be right down there at the bottom, 35 in young fives and 200 in kindergarten. What this is a projected population distribution. If you look, well, start down at the bottom where it's hard to see, I apologize for that. This is simply a carryover projection. What I did is I took every graduating class this year, I just moved them up a head level. So they were 11th grade last year, they're 12th grade this year. It's a very simple way to do it. It's probably as accurate as any other way because nobody's going to call every student and ask them if they're coming back or find out if every house sale resulted in a new student. So this shows us right about where the distribution of students will be. It's pretty even. We've got that 10th grade class, that's that low number I was talking about, our 9th grade this year, which has been low for many years. That's not where we lost our students. That's just a low class, just like the 5th grade next year. So that's where our population distribution lies, which is something we'll have to consider when we look at school reorganization. And these were my, maybe, there it is. These are my personal conclusions. They're just my personal observations. We have a lot of building capacity right now. We had 700 more, and we operated with that. I'm sure it was a little bit tight, but we weren't turning kids away, so I imagine there was room for just a little bit more. The unused capacity constitutes 2 full elementary schools at our maximum usage of those schools yet. However, we can't possibly close 2 schools we'd be packing kids in, way too many in a school, way too many in a class. And one of the greatest considerations for me personally is the mixing of age ranges, both social, educationally, and emotional development. We do a good job, or have done a good job with our 5th grade, getting them into the 6th, 7th, 8th, when it was a middle school for many years. That separate wing physically separated them, and we had a lot of experience doing it. I think that worked really well. I'm not seeing, where we have the space, we can't really put kids, we can't put anybody less than 9th grade in the high school, I don't believe. It's just not appropriate for their development point, and socially it'd be a nightmare for them. And same thing, we can't stuff, 2nd graders or 3rd graders in with 8th graders. We have to have so many buildings open to keep the kids separated. South ELC or Sutton has tremendous capacity, even with the preschool program. So there is plenty of room down there to get the really young kids if we need them. And the high school has space that, although we can't stuff kids into it, with space for, 300 and some kids, we could probably use it for a non-student use, whether it be office space, something that we get a good use out of that vacant space right now, even if it's a couple classrooms that become offices, or use for something in this building, moving stuff around. Admin, yeah. So there's a lot of room in there. That might help keep the offices out of some of the younger buildings too. And I already talked about, there was that 3-year headcount loss in the ISD that was much less than our 3-year, well, much less, but it was less than our 3-year. So I'm thinking that there's probably a good pool of students we lost last summer that are still local, they're still out there, and we can come together and get smooth. I think we can get some of them back. And that's what I have.
Good job.
They could house our entire 7th and 8th grade in one building.
I did not look at that because I don't have the building information. I talked to administrators and student accounting, and I had that information, and I did some data mining from inside and outside the school. As for how many classrooms there are in a building and how that would break down for head count, that is something that I think John has, hopefully? Okay.
So, we had 700 more students in our district
Yes.
at one point with the same buildings as we have now.
Yeah, we had, you know what, I unplugged the dang thing, didn't I? But I'll just talk about anything else. Yeah, we had 3478 was our official state of Michigan head count back in 05-06.
I can't hear.
2784 is our head count now. And that was, it's actually 698 or something, but anyway, that's just under 700. And that number, I did find, interestingly enough, that the official number at the state level that they publish varies just a little bit. And there's some complicated, there's students we have that are not physically ever in the buildings outside the virtual academy, and it's much more complicated than I care to learn, which is why I asked people to do it, because I don't care to learn that much about it. That's that level of professional administrator, not my level. So I just asked for the answers. Yeah, that's where we get easy space for 700 students with those same 6 buildings.
I think when we opened that high school, we had probably 150 more students in the high school than we have in the high school right now.
Yeah, the high school was, I have that here somewhere. High school, right there. High school was, yep. At our peak was 05-06 in the high school. We had 1124 in there. And right now, this fall, we had 781 in there. So 343 is the difference. So I said, there's a lot of space in the high school. Unfortunately, it's in the high school. We can't use it for any other age group. You know what I mean?
Hey Kevin, I don't think the 200 kids in virtual academy are included in those numbers. I'm pretty confident they are. So, just something to consider.
Okay, let me double check that. I think I pulled that one from the state, so I'll verify that.
It should be under TBA for the sake.
That makes sense, because that's what Brad was telling me, we lost 44 students, and then Stacy Bailey told me they actually transferred.
No, they
to
just
the
moved
virtual
over to
academy.
virtual
Right.
academy,
So
yeah.
it might be counted different.
Head count to 19, there we go. High school,
Well, you can always work on that long.
yeah,
You don't
I
have
can.
to, you don't have to find it right now.
No, that did include it. We have high school, Tecumseh High School, 582 physically there, normal grades, and then 165 for the 9th grade, and then 172. How does that come up? Quick math. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what'd I say it was? Nope, it does. You're right, Griff. Yep, the state didn't have that included on there. My bad.
919 is what I checked yesterday for us. So
Yep, okay. So yes, good catch, thank you. The state didn't have our virtual academy students on there, so that is,
But they're not physically in the building.
well, they're not physically in the building, no.
Some.
Right. Hey Griff, while you are right here, there is a category that I was talking about, that we have students that are not physically on the campus. What were they called? Off-campus students. Can you enlighten me? Tecumseh off-campus students. It's only 18. Who are those students?
that's a great question. Our seat time waiver kids are kids that take online strictly at home, and we have about 80 of those that I checked the other day.
How many?
50 or probably middle college that you're thinking too. Our middle college kids are off campus.
No college, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So yeah, there is one correction there. The state did not have our virtual academy in with our high school head
Are
count.
we funding different for them?
You know what, that's a great question for somebody in administration.
We're not gonna get the same amount?
The off-campus kids are funded a little bit different. But, the off-campus kids are funded a little bit different, the TVA kids are funded just like the off-campus
ones are, huh?
Off-campus, the JCLISD is funded the same, but it's a chargeback from JCLISD to us. So we get the foundation money and then we pay them. There's also prep kids in there, and we only have one over there right now. There's also 3 students who are either homeschooled or privately schooled that go to the tech center, that we can claim a partial piece of them. So those kids are funded a little bit differently. But the TBA, seat time waiver, high school kids are all funded the same.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Kevin? It's John's
Itching to go.
itching to go.
Go, John.
All right, so we talked at the last meeting about the building restructuring. You want to go to the first slide, please? I just wanted to hit the current issues that we're having right now. Obviously, the biggest one is a loss of students and the budget deficit. Someone mentioned earlier, we can take that money out of our fund. Well, our fund would actually be down to 4 million, just over 4 million this year. If we took another 1.5 out of it next year, we'd be in trouble. So continuing to dip into our funds is not really realistic. Busing costs have risen, at least $35,000 in the first year of change. The congestion at Compass, yes, it has gotten better. I will agree with that as a Compass parent, but it's still not great. Lunch times at Compass are definitely too early, and we're rushing kids. That was something that I witnessed myself. Playground space, we've had issues with that. I think they call it what do they call it? The cage. Other issues with that. The STEAM buildings, we talked about this too. They don't have the proper gym and music facilities, and they're definitely missing valuable class time. I don't care what you say, it's going to take at least 20 minutes to get those kids on a bus, ship them over there, and get back. So you can't tell me they're not.
Stop it.
All right, this is a board meeting, so please be quiet. You have your opportunity to speak when it's time. Please be quiet so we can hear the presentation. Thank you.
And the admin building, it's old, it's gonna need increasing maintenance, and, you know, it's just something that we don't necessarily need. We have had a couple people reach out to us, interested in purchasing it, so, you know, that would definitely be something we could get rid of. And then, as Kevin just mentioned, we're underutilizing every one of our buildings. So those were the issues that we were looking at when we first started this process. One of the things I do wanna mention though, this is not a curriculum change. This is a building change. So curriculum can continue in whatever way is, you know, discussed in the groups, but this has nothing to do with curriculum. So anything that you're doing in a STEAM center today can be done anywhere. I just want to make that point. If you want to go to the next slide. So the proposed change, and this is basically looking at the numbers. We did have what I thought was a very productive meeting with the admin staff and Brad Hamilton. I think a week ago, week and a half ago.
Couple good meetings.
You know, and I think that we were all coming together well and putting some good stuff together. The change that we came up with to discuss more, and I guess I was given some misinformation. I was assuming that everyone had been tied into this, and obviously the teachers have not. So I think we need to take a step back and talk to the teachers about this some more, so once they get to look at this and digest this information, they can come to us with their questions. But the proposed change would be the South ELC would be a K through 2nd grade. The preschool would not be touched. Those 5 classrooms at South would remain the same. The North ELC would become a K through 2nd, so basically moving 2nd grade out of Compass and into the early learning centers. West STEAM would become a 3rd and 4th grade building. East STEAM would close. Compass would become a 5th through 8th building, which would get more age-appropriate kids in there. Definitely have music space, athletic space, everything for the STEAM Center kids. And depending on how they configure it, the 7th and 8th grade could actually be on the same wing or same floor, whatever you want to do, where they could collaborate with each other. So actually those STEAM kids, instead of being on their own little islands, could actually be working with the 7th and 8th graders together, and those teachers could be working together. I mean, I'm sure they are now, but this would be everybody in the same building. The high school would remain the same. One of the things we did talk about that was thrown out as an idea would be moving the 8th graders to the high school because there is a lot of room there. But after discussing it more with you know, individual people, it didn't sound like a great idea. I'm not sure we're ready to throw 8th graders in with the high school kids, and I think most people would agree with that. Admin moves to Compass, and we sell the admin building. So that's the current proposed change, and obviously everybody needs to digest that a little bit. You can go to the next slide. So here's the anticipated savings and expenses. To close the STEAM building, we're looking at right around $310,000. To close the admin building, around $51,000, and the busing savings around $35,000. So we're looking at a total savings of right around $396,000. When I took a look at the expenses, I looked at this on a conservative level. I know when we talked to Tim Brown originally, he said moving would be around $15,000. I thought that was a little low, so I bumped it up to $25,000. I do believe that we're going to have to move some playground equipment, which I'm guesstimating is around $15,000, which I think is a high estimate. And if we did have to buy new playground equipment, those pieces are anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000. So the other thing that we talked about in the 3-4 building was space, and we talked about potentially having a portable at that school for art and music, just to have a separate building. So when I looked at a portable classroom, I called up, seriously, stop.
We are not your children. You have a board
You can
president
leave.
who can raise his gavel.
It's respect.
And I wasn't saying anything, but I'm tired of being told to stop.
You can leave.
Not a problem. My kids can follow me too because you are ridiculous.
Because we want to be able to hear. It's so mean of us.
Yeah, that's one.
So, the portable classroom is something that we may look into. We can lease a portable classroom for around $1,200 a month. The setup costs are somewhere around $25,000 to $26,000. So if we did have to throw a portable classroom up, the first year cost would be around 41,000. So if we take worst case scenario with all these numbers, our first year savings would be $245,000. Future year savings, we'd be looking at $381,000. So you want to go to the next slide? So taking a look at the goals that we originally had with this, these are the goals that we met. We found significant savings to reduce the budget deficit. We eliminated the need for additional busing. We created additional opportunities for teacher collaboration. We eliminated the lost class time due to travel. We placed students in appropriate sized buildings. We had less students at Compass for less congestion, better lunch schedule, room for growth in all the buildings. We kept moving costs reasonable compared to savings. We tried to limit the disruptions to teachers and students. We closed a building for the foreseeable future. And we have the ability to sell the admin building and recoup our moving expenses from that sale. Future opportunities that we have from this, we have room for growth in all of our buildings. We have an empty building for growth in the 3rd and 4th grade. We have additional preschool and daycare space at Compass. And we have building rental income at East. So there's definitely opportunities with this as far as recouping some of the costs that we have. That's it.
John, playground equipment, we had move and purchase, big step between the two. Did anybody look at the equipment we'd be moving to see what condition it's in already, or is that?
That's why I put both things in there.
Nobody's looked at it yet, so?
No, I'm not sure exactly what we would move, but based on what I talked with Tim Brown about, those were the numbers that he gave me with potential moving. But yes, there's definitely stuff that won't move, that's just too old to be moved.
Okay. Is East the smallest building then that we have?
Yes. Class size is about the same, but it's a better configuration in West.
Do you have all the building classroom numbers or layouts for all the buildings?
I do, and I shared that with the admin, and they have that stuff.
Okay.
And they were also given blank maps, or blank templates of the class, of the schools to configure those.
And they were supposed to go to the teachers and get their input?
I assumed that they did.
I think that was an assumption problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, we don't have enough input at this point in time.
Or some teachers were missed, I'm not sure what happened, but
Right.
obviously there was a disconnect.
I'll just reiterate, I think all the board members received an email from Brad saying that we had enough information.
Yep.
And that we could move forward.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say that at this point, based on the information that we've got tonight, I think we should get more input.
Okay.
Because I think this may be the first time a lot of people are hearing this and they need time to digest it and take a look at it.
Okay. Can you send us a copy of all the maps?
Yes.
Okay.
Pack it up with
I
your,
think I did, but I'll resend it.
yeah, I didn't get it either. Could you pack it
I
up
wasn't
with
gonna
your
answer because I very
PowerPoint?
well could have deleted it.
Could you pack it up with your PowerPoint when you send, and I'll send my PowerPoint to everyone so they can have it. I'll correct the high school numbers for that data point that didn't pull over from the state, right?
And the other thing I'll say is, if everyone in this room wants to go out and find one kid, there's probably 100 people in here or more. If we had another 100 students, we wouldn't have to do any of this. So if we could stop the fighting, stop all the controversy, and everybody bring one kid to the schools, problem solved.
Thank you, John.
I'm just curious about the portable. I've been in a classroom that wasn't portable. I understand what it is. I'm questioning why are we anticipating needing that? I'm just curious.
So in the 3rd floor building, it was putting 2 grades in there, it was gonna be fairly full. So there were 2 things that admin discussed with us, and that was art and music. So one option would be a traveling teacher where, the art supplies or the music supplies could actually go into each classroom. I know that isn't always a great option. I know some of the teachers don't like that. So something that could be, easier for them would be to have a separate area for art and music, which a portable would make the most sense.
Because all the rooms were full with that option, right?
Yeah, and that was actually during our admin meeting, one of the admins came up with that portable idea, and I thought it was a good one, so we
We used to
ran
have
with
them at Tecumseh Acres years ago when my kids were home. Yeah.
Is the gym intact at West?
The gym is not intact, but the basketball hoops are still up, and the floor, it can be used as a gym floor. It's a rubberized surface, but you can still bounce a ball on it and use
They
it.
didn't just cover the wood floor, they actually removed it.
I don't know.
It's removed.
It's removed.
I believe it was removed.
Is it the same at East?
Yes, they were both the same.
So I don't know, we're talking about third and fourth, well, I guess there's no musical instruments down, well, not, the students don't have individual musical instruments down at that age, so we're talking about the same thing. Okay. Yep, I guess portable would work for that if absolutely necessary. Did we look into the possibility of maybe using the stage that's in that CAFA gymtorium, whatever they call it?
We did ask that question, and one of the issues with that was having gym, lunch, and trying to fit music into that into that space throughout the day would not necessarily work. I mean, maybe if you put a wall up on the stage, but then you ruin the stage.
Then you put a wall up on a stage.
I think, but we did ask that question, and basically it was too much to try to stick into that area between lunches,
Too much usage for
music,
one area.
and gym.
Okay.
Discussion?
Just that, I've been reading about everything I can find on configuration of school districts. And the best school districts in this state, the top 5, and districts in other states I've found have a 6th, 7th, and 8th combination for junior high. And some of them do split it up, you know, have, which we could do later on if we got students back, they have a 5th and 6th building and a 7th and 8th building.
I read that report you provided, and it was very informative, thank you.
I know we also in our meetings, we talked about continuing the curriculum somewhat as it is, or exactly what it is, I guess, until curriculum committees decide otherwise, but everyone seemed to agree that, you know, there's a lot more to work on with the 7th and 8th being in the middle school, and we could offer more classes, more shop classes, and more, you know, to get them ready for, you know, college or not college. And then there was talk about 8th graders being in the high school, and some people thought that was a great idea because they were asking for services from the high school, but, you know, I mean, that's something that would need more thought, and I don't, you know, because they could take high school courses, but maybe there's a way they could do it through the virtual academy somehow and not have to leave the building, I don't know, but there was a lot of good discussion about different options and to, you know, expand. It would be better for all students. I mean, not just the ones that love STEAM, but the ones that don't love STEAM. They would have more choices too.
And I think it's important, I know we keep reiterating this, but we have never called for taking everything back to a traditional education. That's never been said by this board. We all believe, change, you know, you can correct me if you will, but we all believe that having the core classes, the core learning, and then having project-based learning as a tool or another piece of that is, you know, the best practices. And we keep hearing everybody concerned about the curriculum, and this building change is not a curriculum change, and we're not calling for a curriculum change to go back to traditional learning. We never have. And we keep saying that, but I want everybody to hear it. We don't want that.
No, and
I have one more question. How are we utilizing pool right now? Do the 8th grade and 7th, 8th grade get any pool classes, or we bus the high school over there, or we just don't use it?
What encore classes do they get? Are they bussed back and forth for band? I mean, what are they bussed back and
team
forth for?
sports sometimes.
For sports? So basically, we're putting 7th and 8th graders now in a building where we have 2 through 5, or 3 through 6, so then we're really mixing them. No, if the 7th and 8th graders have to be bused over to the old middle school to Compass, then they're in there
They're in there with those
With-
kids.
With the 2
Very
through
young
6.
kids, yeah.
Yes.
I see what you're
Current-
saying.
Yeah.
current-
I mean, every day that happens, back and forth, and they walk through. What classes do they go to? Does anybody know?
Melanie's
They
here,
go
I think.
Compass, they go to orchestra and band. The team sports that runs once a day is actually at the high school. So 7th and 8th grade get a chance to collaborate. They go there together for 1 hour a day with both PE teachers. So that's at the high school and an orchestra at Compass. The seventh graders run at Compass before the building's even open, because our day starts at 7:35. So they're out by the time Compass kids are there. And then 8th grade is there at the end of our day, which during those music rooms, yes.
We actually have a music room at East, that's very functional, but the music teachers wanted to have it at the Compass, room because Compass school hasn't even started yet. And so it gave us more flexibility in our schedules that we could run both schedules at the same time.
Okay, good.
Didn't see teacher, sorry.
Anything else? Okay. Let's move on here.
I know you guys had meetings with administrators, would be helpful to have.
We can't hear.
Want to set a meeting with teachers this week? Okay. Let me, figure out when a good time for that is and send an email out.
Same group?
Everybody.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it'll be a special board meeting, so. Yeah. So. Okay.
How do we do that? We get representatives from each grade level, or how?
Everybody can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the teachers can come.
Okay.
And last item is the MASP training. We've got 2 dates, 5/29 or 6/5.
6/5's out for me.
Okay, 5/29's out for me.
I'm on vacation.
I'll be in DC, so.
I'll be in Arizona.
So,
This is like my busiest time of year. If we could wait till like, maybe more towards summer. Let's wait till tax.
Let's wait till tax season.
Yeah.
6/5 works for me. 5/29 says it does right now. I think there's something on there, but it says it's clear, so I'll go with it.
You got dates for June too?
those are the only 2 dates I have.
Oh, okay.
So, we can go back to them and get a couple more dates, so.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The 29th is a Saturday.
Okay. Let's move on to action items. Superintendent action. We need to have an acting superintendent right now, and I know you just met Greg, you know Greg. So I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Greg as acting superintendent. Support.
Roll call.
Aye. You're waiting for me to finish.
Abbott.
Aye.
Lensing.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McNamara.
Aye.
Moore.
Oops. Aye.
Simpson.
Sorry.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call. Abbott.
Aye.
Lensing.
Aye.
Crooks. Johnson.
Aye.
McNamara.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, items scheduled for next agenda will be the finance update from Nikki, grants update from Megan Way, date for truth and taxation and budget hearing. There'll be a cooperative shared services agreement with the LISD, designation of TPS revenue to serve on the 2019 LISD electoral body, and support of the LISD board candidate. Could be action on reconfiguration. We'll have to see how the meeting goes once we get that set up, so.
And something contract.
That'll probably be next Monday.
For grant.
Well, won't happen, but yeah, but. All right, that brings us to our second portion of public comment. Please come to the podium, state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Marlon Curtis. I have to say, you all have really pushed me out of my comfort zone here. I think I've mentioned every time I've spoken that this is not my forte. But when I feel as passionately as I do about all of this, I have no problem standing up here and speaking my mind. John and Kevin, I don't even know what to make of your presentations, need time to process all of that. I do want to applaud the 5 8th graders who so bravely and articulately spoke about their experiences the last 2 years at STEAM West. As I'm sure most of you know by now, I have a daughter there. I also have a 10th grader. I can assure you that my daughter would have fully supported everything that they said here tonight. She didn't have a great start, and I've said that at board meetings in the past, but over the last 2 years, as change takes time and changes have to be made to improve, she's excelled on so many different levels. And I would bet that a lot of the 8th graders in STEAM West would agree with a lot of the sentiments that were stated here tonight. So back in February, we were invited to the high school to have a meeting regarding curriculum for next year, the incoming freshmen. Mr. A gave a great presentation regarding the 2 tracks, traditional, STEAM, and the kids having a choice for which track they were going to take. So great, awesome, they have a choice. So if traditional is better for one kid and STEAM is better for the other, awesome. One can take one path, one can take the other. So imagine my surprise as a parent this week when I get Mr. Mills' email, no offense, Mr. Mills, regarding the 1 track decisions to be made. That, you know, all of your core classes and 2 electives, which is exactly what my daughter had when she was a freshman. What happened to the STEAM option? Right. And when was that expressed that that STEAM option was going away? You all, did you all not just sit here and say that changes to curriculum were not being made?
We haven't made any changes. So.
Then why are they signing up for the traditional path without any information that STEAM is still an option for these incoming freshmen?
STEAM is taught in every class. I mean, we're not.
No. The board has not made a curriculum
We have not made a
change.
curriculum change. We have not voted on any curriculum change.
Okay. They were supposed to have 2 options.
No, they were
The board
not.
also never voted on that.
Yeah, they were not.
Then what was the purpose of the meeting back in February? And at what point was information put out to parents that that was no longer going to be an option, and that was no longer going to be the case for these incoming freshmen?
That was presented without the board's knowledge, and that was made clear at a meeting.
Okay. Okay.
3 minutes
John,
is
I
up.
would also like to point out that I did bring 2 children to this district, and I brought them to this district because of the changes that were made under Kelly Kaufman.
I just wanted to point out, I think that Mr. Benzing's numbers are a little bit off in the presentation. He listed that the busing number savings would be $35,000. And at the last meeting that we actually had, supposed to be canceled, it was discussed as to what those increases in costs were, and I believe it was $21,000 in increased fuel costs. I also want to point out that in addition to the busing that's going on to move kids around so that they can take part in some of these other activities, that there was an additional route that was added to alleviate long ride times for youngsters that were on the bus for over an hour. So, I wanted to also, Mr. Johnson, I just wanted to, you might want to be a little more careful in the things that you say, because to my ear, it sounded like what you had said was you were more likely to get truthful information from teachers that you had a relationship with.
Right, you did say that.
And that is very troubling to me, because you're also going to be having a meeting, now you're going to be inviting teachers to come and have a meeting, and is the expectation that these people are going to give you information face to face? Surveys, anonymous surveys, probably would be the best way to collect this information. Not that it's a bad idea to talk to the teachers, you should totally do that. I'm just saying, if you want data, you might want to do it the right way. And then here's this other thing, I know from having talked to people who have children in the 7th and 8th grade that there were changes that were made. You guys are responsible for those, whether you voted on them or not. You directed a superintendent to behave in a certain way, and those changes were made. The buck stops with you, you should own that. And so that would make again, I have heard before, we're not interested in making a lot of changes. I don't find that to be a statement that has veracity. I don't believe you. That's the bottom line. And that's the bottom line with what is wrong currently with what's going on here in Tecumseh. I also want to say, I think that you should all visit a city council meeting if you're not going to plan on having a special school board meeting all the time, and watch a well-run meeting. I think that you need to understand the things that are incumbent upon you as the president of the board, the things that you're supposed to say, and specifically I want to address this TEA letter of agreement that was passed last time. And I just want to say, usually what happens in this format is that we don't just say, hey, we're passing this thing. You give some sort of a summary to the public so that the public doesn't have to get the Daily Telegram and read Dimitri's article to figure out what the hell the board's been doing.
Right.
This is something you guys, openness and transparency.
Thank you, Bill, your time's
and
up.
hearing from people was what you wanted to say.
Your time's up, thank you.
Yeah, gotcha. I really liked how you treated the lady in the crowd. Two more students gone. It's cool.
Good job.
They don't care if you're going.
Mark Magus. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the reconfiguration information that was presented this evening. I can appreciate that deficit spending is unsustainable, and some cuts will have to be made here and there. But I'm concerned that these decisions are being made very rapidly, and with quite frankly not a lot of input from the community like we had in the previous reconfiguration. It was a multi-year process. Many surveys were put out, many configuration options were presented, and there was a lot of community feedback. And I'm just, I'm concerned that we've only seen one. We've only been shared one configuration option right now, and I would appreciate if we could get some more options out there and possibly some community feedback. Like I said, I know we can't keep spending this in a deficit, but I don't think we need to make this change this rapidly for this next school year. So if we can just have a little bit more time and consideration, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is April Bradley, and I have a senior who's graduating this year, but I also have a 6th grader at Compass, and he's flourished amazingly these last couple years. And I guess with all this pre-planning going on, my question would be is at the end of this year, if all of these parents in the room are this dissatisfied in your guys' plan right now is to close the building. What are you gonna do when all these parents pull their kids from the district? Close all the buildings? Close all the buildings but one? There's gotta be other choices, and there's several people here and several people not here who at the end of this year, given the way this town is going, are gonna pull their kids, and it can't be just continue to close the buildings. There's gotta be a better plan than that.
My name is Robert Heisler. I'm a little bit concerned. I see the budget issues, I understand them. Some of the configuration things make sense. What concerns me is there was a lot of important and legitimate questions that come about, and nobody on the board seemed to have a good handle or a reasonable answer to those, and yet you were prepared initially tonight to make a vote on the change. That concerns me. I served on the committee that built the high school and added the 5th grade wing on, I believe it's called Compass now. We worked for over a year on both of those as a committee before we brought the recommendation to the board. The community had the input. The teachers had the input. A lot of people had the input. This is the first I've heard, and I haven't been to all the meetings, I haven't been in 2 months because I had other commitments. This is the first I've heard anything about what the configuration would look like, and yet as a community person, I had no chance to give you any input, but you were prepared to vote on it, and that to me is very concerning. Thank you.
Jenny LeGorkin. So someone mentioned something in the crowd, wondering about the result of the public survey that was done. It'd be nice to see that. So just put that out there. Also, I wanted to address the email that came out from Mr. Simpson. I found it interesting, very, very unfortunate that there was the fine that you mentioned. But you know, there's been a lot of mistakes been made. The hiring of a certain individual that had legal allegations made that were very harmful, and yet you still made a decision to hire him, and now we're still paying him. So I feel like, you know, that's really unkind to point out a person's failure when you haven't been real proactive at admitting your own. So I just feel like it takes a lot of integrity to be able to own up to some of, you know, your own mistakes, but I find it a huge lack of integrity to point out someone else's shortcoming. It is you know, very unfortunate, I don't deny that, but I just think there could be better integrity. Also in that email you mentioned the public posting, and of course I don't know the inside of your mind, so I don't know exactly what ones you're mentioning, but you know, there was one particular page that really got you guys into the positions you're in. And as far as derogatory and vulgar, I absolutely agree. I don't think there should be any kind of derogatory or vulgar comments on the public pages, but those pages are where people learn. And the one that I tend to follow, while I don't agree with some of the harsh tones that I read, they're posting data, information, to help inform the public that we wouldn't otherwise know. So I actually feel like the people who are keeping quiet because of their integrity, because of their professionalism, because they're not dirt slingers, I'd love to hear more of what they know, because I really think there's a lot of secrets that are being kept. That's just my personal assumption. I could be very wrong, and I'm the first one to admit that I could be very wrong, but I just can't help but wonder what's not being told. Because you have a lot of professional people that are willing to keep their mouth shut for the sake of the community, for the sake of their own integrity and their reputation. So I guess I point these things out as for the reason that I really think the community needs to ask a lot of questions and start asking why. Why are we on number 4 superintendent? Why are these things happening in such a disarray since January, really? Which, and then also, you know, again, I really value our teachers, our administrators. Like the teachers have stated, they do what they do because they love the children, and that's why they spent the time that they did seeking their degrees. You know, with the savings that you hope to have, I hope you plan on giving them raises.
Well, that's it.
Alright, I'll be quick. My name's John Tadaro. I got a kid in the district, a little guy. I just want to say, is anyone else, now I'm talking to the whole room, is anyone else kind of embarrassed that Toledo or Fox News is here right now? I mean, they're not here for good news. You know, they're here for the drama. You could tell they were getting ready to wrap up, and then the second public comments came, and they came back in with their cameras again to make sure they got it all. Not criticizing you, we're giving it to you, so you're taking it. You know, if we could just, I've seen a lot of good meetings where, you know, we seemed like we were taking a couple steps forward. Everybody seemed like, okay, I'm ready to get on the same page. And I see a lot of people on both sides taking us 2 steps back every time we take 1 step up. So I just, you know, just if we're embarrassed by that, you know, we're the ones that can change that, both sides. And it'd be nice to see. I'd like to raise my kid in a district that he can be proud of, that I can be proud of putting in. And, you know, it's easy to say, I guess, too, though I'm not in your position. I'm not in your position, really. So, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there. And hopefully, though, the news did get the story about the boy, Haven. You know, that'd be cool if you guys got that.
I want to follow up on what the gentleman in back said about the hastiness to the decision, being ready to make a decision. In my job, I work with data, I publish scientific papers based on data, and I know that I cannot say anything about that data with a sentence that starts with, I think, I presume, I assume, I estimate, I guesstimate, or any of those words. So before we make any decisions, I would like to know that you are very confident in the data that you've collected and that you can show me where you get that data from. Thank you.
Hey, Joyce Lammers. I'd just like to clarify a statement that was made that didn't sit well with me and probably my entire department. The music department in the elementary schools uses thousands of dollars of instruments. At a kindergarten and first building, right now there's about $2,000 worth of ORF instruments. In my classroom, there's $10,000 worth of ORF xylophones, another $1,500 in ukuleles, and approximately another $1,500 in piano keyboards that the kids use, and you're welcome to talk to them regularly. So I just want to clarify that piece. Thanks.
I need to clarify, I am not a good public speaker. Typically, my brain works ahead of my mouth and things come out wrong. Apparently happened twice tonight. I'd like to clarify, I'm aware that they have all the instruments. My son loves you and loves the instruments and music. I was referring to when they get higher in the grades, they each have their own personal cello, for example, or bass, and the room is overfilled because we don't have large enough music rooms to begin with. That's where my concern was with using the temporary. It wasn't that we didn't have instruments, it's that the sheer number of them that are already too cramped into like encompass, that orchestra room is much too small. That's where my thought was coming from with the musical instruments. I do realize
appreciate that. Look forward to discussing it all with you. And I think I would have more information to present had I known that was a discussion item tonight. So
I didn't know it was either, so thank you. I just wanted to clarify. And also, as long as I'm here, I do need to clarify again. My mouth got ahead of my brain and it came out wrong. What I meant to say is when I talk to a teacher or administrator that I know, that I have contact with outside of the school, I have more of a personal relationship with them. The information, it isn't as guarded, it's free-flowing. So I can talk with them in private and the information flows more freely. I get more, it's not honest as in I expect people to lie to me, it's just not stemmed by anything. There's no nervousness or anything. That's all I meant by getting information from people that I have a relationship with. Not that I expected anybody to lie to me.
move on
Sorry,
to,
I've done this to you before, sorry. Rochelle Johnson, I'm a community member and I work at Steam West and I have a son at East. These ladies, my 8th graders, are encouraging me to get up here and say something. I wasn't going to, I don't have much to say. I just want to say this, kind of piggybacking on Mrs. Lammers with the music. Portables are where classrooms go to like be excluded and you're not good enough and you get to be thrown in the portable. And it's just really curious. I'm so glad someone asked up here about why we need them when you say we have so many rooms. And then it started, and this is seriously like questions I want answered, like discussion, that I'm unaware. If you're considering, when you talk about shoving kids in buildings, the art rooms, the music rooms, the special ed rooms, the maker spaces that have been made, all of those special rooms being considered that need their own space. So again, when I heard portable and I saw that up there, it's just sad to me that we say we need to close a building because we have no space, yet we will throw these classes into portables. That cost money. It doesn't make sense to me. And let's have a good outlook. If we are going to change things for the good and come together, and I see the trends in the county, which by the way, there are trends for everybody in the county of losing students. Why are we making that our future? Maybe we won't gain back those kids we lost, but we have lots of school of choice kids that we want to gain. So when you talk about closing these buildings and not having space or consolidating for those reasons, you need extra space to build on. And as far as our opinions on the building changes, I haven't heard we would like to talk. I wish that if you're considering talking to us, surveys are great too. I think you should do both so that people don't feel afraid to speak with you. But those study sessions you were going to have, did you see how many teachers were here? Yes. They wanted to be heard. So I know you're tabling this. I hope maybe you would consider doing another study session so we could actually talk.
We were just talking about doing that.
Okay, great. That would be wonderful.
And previously, the intent, I'm sorry, I've taken your time now.
That's okay.
Previously, the intent was to have a roundtable discussion with the administrators.
Okay.
I think I'd rather see more of a discussion with the teachers, if that's okay. Thanks, Rochelle.
all right. Any board member discussion, comment?
I have one thing. Like I say, I've been trying to read everything I can find on configuration of schools and what works best in which state. And if anybody can tell me where I can find a school district that is isolated from 7th and 8th grade the way we have, so that I can talk to them and see if, the pros and cons. Dexter. That's the 7th and 8th grade?
Yep,
Separate?
2 separate schools.
Singularly?
Yes. Yes.
So like I said, it looks like we're gonna try to do a special meeting this week. We would like the teachers' input. Administrators, you're of course welcome. But we wanna hear from the teachers. We thought we had that information, it sounds like we didn't, and that's okay, we still have time. So if you can kind of keep that in mind, we'd definitely like to hear your input on that plan, or if you have another plan. I'm not a big fan of portables either, but that's okay, we'll get there. Again, my apologies to the community. The committees should be in place. We hit some snags that were unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so hopefully Mr., is it Lewis? Right. Mr. Lewis, sorry. Hopefully Mr. Lewis can get us on track with that. As I mentioned earlier, I did speak with the investigator today, and he anticipates having the report to us between the 24th and the 31st. He didn't want to overpromise. He's hoping for the 24th, but he didn't want to tell me the 24th, and I come tell you, and then it's not the 24th. So those are the dates he gave me. Once we have that information, I'm not sure if we're gonna sit as a committee or how we're going to do that. We need to get with our attorney clearly, we need to look at that data, and then we need to make some decisions. And at that point, of course, then we will share what we can, based on what the report finds. All that being said, it's very important to me, and I believe everyone on this board, to get the committees going, to get that community involvement that we wanted, that we feel is most important. The surveys are complete, and that information should be coming out very shortly as well. And those did include the teachers, didn't they?
Yes.
Okay, okay, just wanted to make sure. I thought it went out district-wide. Excuse me. Sorry. So, just know that that is stuff that is still very important to us. No one is letting that go, but with the roadblocks that were put in our way, we just couldn't move forward on it as quickly as we wanted to. But at the same time, we can't just stop moving forward with our kids' educations either, and making improvements where we can. So that's what everybody is trying to do. And I'm certain that Mr. Hamilton was right, that we are more alike than we are different, and we need to find that happy medium. And again, I know we have numbers here, and again, the gentleman that spoke, I didn't get your name.
John.
John, you're very accurate, sir. And I appreciate that. My daughter's sitting here in the audience tonight. I don't need her seeing actually two daughters. I don't need them living the drama. Somebody sent my daughter an anonymous message the other day that wasn't very nice either. It needs to stop. We need to come together. We need to be one to come see. So I certainly hope that we can get to that goal. Thank you.
Rachel, could you have your 8th grade girl stand up? Oh, yeah, the one that spoke. Could you people please give them an applause? They talked about... I couldn't imagine doing that at 8th grade. Of course, I don't see any boys up there with you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak about the surveys. Tim and I did meet with Jason, who put the surveys together, and we asked him for a couple other data points that he's putting together. We're also trying to get him to come to a board meeting to talk about the surveys. The information was really good. I know that surveys are difficult. You don't always get the participation level that you want out of them. Out of the 3,000 surveys that we sent out to parents, teachers, and community members, we only got about 33% of a response. So we're gonna present that information and get it out there, but we keep hearing everybody wants to be heard, but we only get 33% of the people who actually got information sent to them. And we'd like to hear more, I guess is the point of that. If you want to be heard, take the time to get heard.